Hello, welcome back to another breaking news update. My name is Jimmy Boyd, and you were watching Boyd News. I want to thank you so much for tuning in today. I'm back with some more updates coming out from the war between Russia and Ukraine, and I've got huge updates to share with you here today. If you were not aware, I was not here yesterday. I was resting due to a sickness that I have developed over the last maybe 4 or 5 days now, and I decided to take the day off yesterday to kind of rest, and I do feel much better today. I'm not 100%, but way better than I have been over the last few days. So thank you so much for your patience. I've got numerous things to catch up on here today. Obviously, some stuff that happened yesterday I want to talk about as well, as we were not here to cover some of the news. So just in case you didn't get any news from elsewhere, I want to share some things that were going on just yesterday inside of Russia and Ukraine. So we're going to start with this first story that Ukraine struck an oil depot in Rovenky in occupied Luhansk. Okay, so this is in the southeastern portion of Ukraine in current Russian-controlled territory. And this oil depot, from what I understand, has been attacked up to 5 times now since the start of this war. And looks like Ukrainian drones successfully struck this place. Now, I don't think we had any of these oil tanks that were completely destroyed. But as we can see, definitely a fire has broken out on one of these oil tanks. And from what I understand, I think the fire was extinguished. So we'll go over a report on mainstream news. And I've also got some video footage to show you guys and some pictures coming out from that area. Then we also have some reports that there was a major gas station explosion inside of Grozny. It's a major city in Chechnya inside of Russia. So we'll be showing you guys that as well. Looks like an oil tanker was supposedly maybe parked nearby and had exploded, which potentially caused the gas station to explode. We don't know exactly all the details, but definitely a gas station completely exploding inside of Grozny. So we'll be discussing that as well. And then we also had some reports that it looks like the Ukrainians shot down another Su-35 or Su-34, excuse me, fighter bomber inside of the eastern portion of Ukraine. And it's a very big potential. It may have been shot down by a Ukrainian F-16. Now, that's very big news. If that is confirmed, then this would be the first time that a Ukrainian F-16 has shot down any of Russia's warplanes, from what I understand. So we'll be discussing that as well today. Then I've got some numerous updates coming out from the Kursk region, and then also some other various things in relating to this war. So let's go ahead and dive right into some of the news. Let me start sharing some of these details with you. This is on Ukrainska Pravda. Ukrainian defenders hit oil depot in occupied part of Luhansk Oblast. Saturday, October 12th, 2024 is when this came out, just today. So it says down here, the Ukrainian Defense Forces struck a fuel and lubricants warehouse near the town of Rovenky, located in the temporarily occupied territory of Luhansk Oblast, on the night of October 11th to the 12th. The source was General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine. It was noted that the base stored oil and petroleum products, which were supplied, among other things, for the needs of the Russian occupation forces. A fire is still raging at the scene of the strike. It is known that the strike was carried out by units from Defense Intelligence of Ukraine in cooperation with other components of the defense forces. The oil depot had previously been hit by Ukrainian forces. So from what I understand from this oil depot, again, has been struck up to 5 times, or at least been attacked. I believe 2 times this year. I think once back in May and then once also in February. But altogether, since the beginning of this war, this oil depot coming in under attack up to 5 times. So this was the original report from Ukrainska Pravda coming out today from mainstream news. So now I want to hop over to a map and kind of show you guys where this took place at. This is in the southeastern portion of Ukraine. Again, down here, we're going to zoom in to the Luhansk region. So here is the city of Rovenky. And then in the top northwestern corner over here, here is the oil depot. Okay, so here's a good picture of it. There's at least, I want to say, 10 or 12 of these oil storage tanks. And looks like they have some fuel that's stored here at this facility as well. So I know for sure one of these oil tanks definitely caught fire. I don't think it was completely destroyed, but we definitely had some sort of fire that broken out here at this facility. So again, here's where it's located, inside of Rovenky, the northwestern portion of the city. And again, this is in southeastern Ukraine in the Luhansk region, okay, so down here. So now moving on to our first update on X, I've got this video footage here from Nexta. Russian media shows footage of fire at oil depot in Luhansk region. The Russians claim to have extinguished the fire, which was caused by a drone strike. So we've got a 19-second video to show you guys here from Russia's defense ministry showing a fire that has broken out here on the side of this oil tank. It's the same one that I had for you guys up on the waiting screen when you came in, but here it is full screen. Take a look. Okay, so by the looks of this, it doesn't look like this drone was able to penetrate one of these oil storage tanks, but definitely we had a major fire that broke out on the side of one of these. So that's the first video I had for you guys. I've also got another one up here as well from Olga Klemenko. Oil depot a day keeps Russia away. Hopefully, oil depot's on fire in Rovenky in the Russian-occupied part of Luhansk Oblast. It is likely a result of a strike. So we have an 8-second clip of what appears to be somebody standing much further away from the facility, showing that it caught on fire. As we can see, the flame here in the background illuminating the sky. Okay, so take a look at this. Okay, so in this video, we can clearly see some of the smoke and maybe even some of the flame right there is what it looks like. I don't know if that's smoke or flame coming up just over this ridge line that somebody was able to capture, showing the direct hit from this facility. Okay, so definitely we had a fire here that had broken out on the facility. But again, I don't have any confirmation of this place being destroyed or any major fire that had broken out. It looks like the Russians were able to save this strike here. So here's another picture from Igor Sushko, Rovenky, Luhansk region, occupied by Russia. And then here's the coordinates. This is the facility that I just showed you guys on the map as we pulled up Google Maps for you. So now on to our next update from Max 24, our drones that attack the oil depot in Rovenky. Okay, so here's some pictures apparently of some of the drone fragments after this place had been attacked. We can see some of the wings here. This looks like a wing from one of the drones after it impacted. And here's a picture of what appears to be some other type of drone. I've never seen a drone like this being used from Ukraine, which is very interesting. This actually almost looks more along the lines of the Shahed drones that Russia uses. But I don't think this is a Shahed drone. This is a different type of drone that was used. But these were some of the pictures of the fragments of the drones that were captured on this facility while it was attacked, okay? So moving on to our next update now, we're going to talk about Grozny in Chechnya, Russia, with this this gas station that supposedly had exploded, okay? So we've got two videos to show you guys, and you're going to see a massive explosion. And what you're going to see in this video as well is an oil tank from a oil tanker that basically explodes and then starts rolling down this street right here. And there's a person down here that almost gets hit by it. Very scary to see that from Liskovka. This is what the tanker looks like, which was thrown away by a powerful explosion at a gas station in Grozny. Some Russian media outlets report 4 dead. So some people were reporting, yes, some medias over there in Russia were stating that 4 people had supposedly died in this attack. Very unfortunate. I think these were just innocent bystanders nearby while this gas station exploded. So pay attention. You're going to see this gas station erupt into flames, and then shortly after, you're going to see that oil tanker come over here and crush this car right here. So take a look. Pretty crazy. All right, I turned that down for you guys because I know those car alarms can be extremely loud. So if you notice right there, we'll go back just a little bit. There was somebody here and they started running right there. Actually, maybe 3 people right here as they saw this oil tank coming, streaming down the street, rolling over here after that gas station had exploded. That's how strong this explosion was. It blasted this oil tanker all the way down this street, probably looks like about 100 yards or so. So pretty insane. We've got one more video now of somebody that was standing on here on the ground that was recording this oil tank coming up close. So we've got an up-close video here to show you from Max 24, says Grozny. Take a look at this video now. Pretty insane. All right, pretty nuts, right? Look at this thing just flying. That's got to be going at least like 70, 80 miles an hour down this street. And this person was reacting so slowly. I was afraid they were going to get hit by this thing. And they happened to finally turn away as this oil tank was coming towards them. Maybe they didn't see it at first because they were probably looking at the fire up in the sky. But definitely a major explosion at this gas station. Again, we don't know all the details of what happened here. But something caused this thing to explode. I'm not sure if it was this oil tank that was parked over here, but as we can see, a massive explosion inside of Chechnya. So moving on now to our next update. From Nexta, Ukrainian media publishes satellite images of destroyed Russian warehouses with shaheeds near Yeysk. So we talked about this a few days ago, and I told you guys we had an attack on some warehouses in the Krasnodar region that supposedly were storing Shahed drones. And we've got satellite imagery that confirms many of these buildings here that you see are basically destroyed, okay? So upwards of 400 were being stored here at this site, and it looks like a lot of them have been destroyed as we heard of massive secondary explosions going off over here. I showed you guys the video footage of that a few days ago. So this was the result of that was coming out on X. This happened just yesterday, or these updates were coming out yesterday, excuse me. Okay, so also I've got another update from the Konskaya airfield that I reported on a few days ago as well. Max 24, as a result of the strike on the Konskaya airfield, the warehouses in which ammunition were stored were destroyed. So it looks like somebody was able to get some satellite imagery showing what appears to be at least 3 buildings over here that were completely destroyed, as you can see, leveled and flattened to the ground, as we had a major explosion here also at this airbase, coming under attack by, I believe, drones just a few days ago, and we reported on this that there was a massive fire here at this airfield, the Konskaya airfield, and looks like we did for sure have some confirmed damage according to satellite imagery here from Max 24. Okay, so now briefly we're going to talk about this Su-34 that was shot down. Vicegrad 24 breaking: the Ukrainian army just shot down another Russian Su-34 fighter bomber over eastern Ukraine. The 2 pilots didn't manage to eject from the plane, so it definitely was shot down if they didn't eject. What was it hit by? We'll have to see. But this report right here says from Military News UA, Russian channels write that today's Russian bomber fighter Su-34 was shot down by Ukrainian fighter F-16. Okay, so we'll see if this is true. If we get actual confirmation from this, then this could be very huge. This would be a first confirmed downing of any Russian jet using a Ukrainian F-16 supplied by the West, obviously. We haven't heard anything yet. I would think Ukraine would come out and acknowledge this right away, so I'm thinking maybe this wasn't the case, but apparently some Russian channels on Telegram were stating that supposedly it was shot down by a Ukrainian F-16. So we'll see what happens here in regards to that. So moving on now, I've got some reports coming out from the Kursk region to share with you. This is from Nexta, breaking: Sursky, Russia has sent about 50,000 troops to the Kursk region from other directions. The commander-in-chief claims that this has weakened Russian groups in other directions, particularly in the Zaporizhia and Kherson regions and in the Kramatorsk section of the front. Okay, so this was actually reported on Thursday, and I was going to share this with you guys yesterday, but unfortunately I wasn't able to be here, so that's why I wanted to recap on this, to share this with you in case you guys weren't aware of this. So yeah, apparently Oleksandr Sursky given a situational report to Volodymyr Zelensky, stating that approximately 50,000 troops have been sent to the Kursk region to fight against Ukraine, thus pulling many of their troops away from the eastern front inside of Ukraine and pushing them over to the Kursk region of Russia, which is supposedly supposed to be alleviating some of the pressure on the Ukrainian troops on the eastern front. But we have been hearing still that Russia is still making some gains, taking over some towns, and we reported probably about 3 days ago that the city of Toretsk and the eastern portion of Ukraine is currently experiencing heavy fighting, and the Russians have pushed into approximately about halfway into that city, last I heard. So that was the latest update coming out from Oleksandr Sursky that I knew of. And then also, what was reported on that same day, on October 10th, we had reports of Deep State stating that, it says here, yesterday was a terrible day for Ukrainian troops in Kursk Oblast, Russia. A renewed push for the Russian counteroffensive in the region broke through Ukrainian lines on the western flank in the vicinity of Novo Ivanivka, seizing almost 15 square miles. Okay, so what was being reported here from Deep State UA is there was a counterattack from the Russians on the western side of the Kursk offensive right now. And we heard just weeks ago that Russians came down from Kornevo down to Snogosty, and they had liberated this area over here. Now what we recently heard is this gray section that you see here was a renewed offensive from the Russians pushing in to the western central side of the Kursk offensive. And look how far they made it in, about almost halfway of the the official square miles that Ukraine is currently controlling. Here they pushed in about halfway to the cities of what was it, I forget the name of it, Novo Ivanivka. Okay, kind of hard to pronounce. That town is actually right over here in this area, and we had a report that came out that I wanted to share with you guys. This just coming out today, 2 days later after that original report from Deep State, from Bandera Fela. The AFU have liberated Novo Ivanivka and Zeleny Shliak in the Kursk region. Okay, so that was these two towns here. Okay, so there's two towns that were taken over by that renewed push by the Russians. And then apparently the Ukrainians had re-counterattacked in this area and reclaimed these two cities that were originally taken by the Russians just in the last couple days. So originally what was reported was after this offensive had taken place from the Russians, it looks like Ukraine was eventually able to thwart the attack. The Russians did push them back a little bit. Obviously, they took over a few towns, but it looks like within the next 24 hours or so, Ukraine was already starting to push back. And then now, as of 2 days later, on October 12th, we now hear that Ukraine had liberated Novo Ivanivka and Zeleny Shliak. Okay, so apparently there was a somewhat successful push by the Russians, but looks like Ukraine was able to thwart that for the most part, and now they're starting to push back is what we're hearing after about 48 hours of that development. Okay, so that's some of the latest that I heard coming out from the Kursk region of Russia. Also now from Bliskovka, several thousand North Korean troops are currently training in Russia and could be sent to the border with Ukraine by the end of the year, the Washington Post reports. According to reports, these units could replace Russian troops in some rear positions, allowing the Russians to move their forces to the front line. Okay, so this is a very huge report. I'm actually going to do a separate report on this today, so we can dive in deeper and talk more about this. But apparently, several thousand North Korean troops are currently inside of Russia right now training, and potentially could be near the front line at some point, or at least at the bare minimum, taking up some of the back logistics controls of the Russian forces and taking over some of their positions on the backside of the front, so that way their troops can be freed up and moved to the front line. So this is definitely more indication that North Korea is more heavily involved inside the war in Ukraine. And then we also reported to you guys just a few days ago as well that we had like 6 North Korean officers that were killed, and also some wounded, some North Korean soldiers that were wounded on the eastern portion of Ukraine in a missile attack, I believe. And then also soon after that, we heard that North Korea may be deploying more troops. So it looks like North Korea has a significant amount of troops already inside of Russia that are training and potentially could join the fight inside of Ukraine. So we'll see what happens with that. Pretty crazy. I'll be doing a separate video on that today to dive deeper and explain that to you guys. So also from Nexta, Ukrainian defense company United Military Solutions has developed Stick M12 barrage munition. The company said its new drone can stay aloft for more than an hour and fly up to 70 kilometers. Munitions is designed to destroy cover, infantry, and armored vehicles. According to open sources, the cost of such a wing is $2,430. So that's pretty cheap if you think about it. $2,400 for this drone is very cheap, and again, it's being used to destroy cover, infantry, and armored vehicles. And it's pretty crazy. This thing can fly for more than an hour and up to 70 kilometers. So it looks like they have developed another type of drone that can be used to destroy some vehicles as well. So here's some pictures of that. So this is called the Stick M12. Okay, so also, I've got another update from the Feodosia oil depot down in Crimea. We discussed this about 5 days ago or so, coming under attack in the eastern portion of Crimea. And from Glasnost Gone, the wrath and judgment of God will come to those who have rejected the truth and followed evil. In Russian-occupied Crimea, the Feodosia oil depot is still burning and exploding 4 days after Ukraine struck it on October 7th. So if you notice, this came out yesterday. And from what I understand, I believe this oil depot has finally been put out as of 5 days later, but definitely for 4 days, it was for sure burning. We heard after about the second or third day, once the fire was just starting to calm down, I think it spreaded to more oil tanks. We probably had 5 or upwards of 10 that were destroyed. So definitely a massive hit to this Feodosia oil terminal down in eastern Crimea, and I heard it was creating very huge logistical problems for Russia's military in terms of fuel and gas that they use for their military, definitely causing problems for them down there in the Crimean Peninsula. So a few more updates to go over. This from the Ukrainian Review. Military personnel from Poland and the Baltic states discussed a military response to a possible Russian invasion, says Bild magazine. After the war in Ukraine, Russia may direct its imperialist expansionism to Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, and Poland. The likelihood of such a scenario will increase if Belarus fully becomes part of the so-called Union State. Ukraine gives, us several years of time. If Russia wins in Ukraine, we will have one Russian division in Lviv, one in Brest, and one in Grodno, Chief of the General Staff of Poland said. According to him, if Russian troops cross the border with Lithuania, there will be an immediate response. So it looks like the Baltic nations, along with Poland, are definitely still very concerned that this war could spread to their nations. We've talked a lot about this before. Many top defense ministers from these countries. We've had generals from their armies coming out and warning that this war could definitely spread to the Baltic nations or maybe even Poland, considering they're so close to the front line, especially if Ukraine ends up losing this war. So they were all gathering and discussing this, as you can see here, resilient Europe, shaping defense amidst new threats. So obviously they are preparing for potential conflict with Russia in the future. And then we also had this being talked a lot about lately in regards to Lithuania. This has been something that Lithuania has been doing for a while now. I think even Estonia, Latvia doing this as well. Many of their bridges, they're starting to put up dragon's teeth. We discussed this many times in the past, especially towards the beginning of this year. But from the Telegraph, Lithuania has installed dragon's teeth anti-tank barriers on bridges that link the country to Russia. So here's a picture of some of those dragon's teeth that are on some of the bridges that link over to Russia. And apparently they have been testing even these new iron steel beams that they use to stop or at least slow down many of the tanks that try to come in to their nation, whether it be on some of these bridges or maybe over their land. Yeah, definitely many of these Baltic nations especially are preparing for a conflict with Russia in the near future. So one last thing I want to share with you before we get you out of here. Next to reports, head of Zelensky's office, Russian representatives may attend the second peace summit where they will be presented with Ukraine's victory plan. Okay, so head of Zelensky's office coming out reporting that Russian representatives may attend this next second peace summit. Okay, now we don't know exactly when the peace summit's going to take place. We heard something about November. I'm not 100% sure about that. Maybe November, December, somewhere in there is probably most likely when the second peace summit will be held. And we've been hearing a lot that Russia would be invited to attend. Some sort of delegation would probably show up. So it looks like they are going to for sure allow Russia to attend it. And they're going to present their victory plan to Russia. And we've been hearing a little bit about that recently. The first part of that victory plan was apparently Ukraine joining NATO. So we do know that so far, but apparently the rest is yet to be revealed from what I have heard. So we'll wait to see what more comes from the victory plan, but definitely looks like they're pushing to try to end this war very soon, as we've even heard from Volodymyr Zelensky that they want to try to end this war no later than 2025, okay? So big things are going to be changing here with this war between Russia and Ukraine very soon. Hopefully, they can find a way to resolve this peacefully and this war does not continue to go on forever. And hopefully Ukraine can get what they deserve, maybe even get their land back. Who knows what's going to happen? We'll see. But that's going to be it for today's update, guys. I want to thank you so much for tuning in and thank you for your patience while I've been very sick lately, but I am feeling a lot better today. So thank you so much for all the get well wishes and for all your support. So I hope you got something out of this today. If you did, please smash that like button. Also, if you enjoy my content, please consider subscribing down below. Hit the notification bell. That way YouTube can notify you. And with that, hope you all have a great day. Everybody take care and God bless, and we'll see you in the next one.